3.2, congruent, similar, neither. Match each image to its rule. Then, for each rule, decide whether it takes the original figure to a congruent figure, a similar figure, or neither. Explain or show your reasoning. All right, so if I look at number 1 down here, we have xy to x over 2, y over 2. So we just showed in the last one, or we showed even in the last lesson, that when you do something to both coordinates, like you multiply by a number, in this case you multiply by 1/2, that's going to be a dilation centered at the origin. So this is going to be, we say d 1/2 centered at origin. All right, and the resulting figures will be similar because dilations produce similar figures. So if I'm just looking at these objects here, choice D stands out as being a dilation, the scale factor 1/2. So I'm going to put choice D here. So to really assure that that's true, I'm going to make my lines of projection. And I can see that, yeah, they do go through that origin when I match up my corresponding points. So I was right about that. And I can also see that this bottom side is 1 unit, and this bottom side is 2 units. If I'm going from 2 to 1, I've multiplied by 1/2. All right, so that's choice 1. Choice 2, xy goes to y negative x. So if you remember from a few weeks ago on that quiz we took, this rule is a rotation of 270 degrees clockwise centered at the origin. All right, and you will have your notes on your test and all your quizzes, so please use them. You should have all those rules written down. So let's take a look at these. Well, if I'm looking here, these don't look congruent. And I know that a rotation is a rigid motion, so the two objects must be congruent. So I'm trying to find something that goes through 3 quadrants, right? Because 270 degrees means that I'm rotating it 90 degrees 3 times. So if I look at this one, a rotation of 90 degrees would take it to this quadrant, then another 90 to this quadrant, and another 90 to this quadrant. That is not where f prime is. If I look at this one up here, 1, 2, 3, that would be the closest one. Or it would be exactly that. And let me just check some of the coordinates here. I've got 1, 1. If I take 1, 1, and I switch the coordinates and make the x negative, that goes to 1, -1. And I've got a point right there, 1, -1. Another thing you can do with this is I can actually rotate this paper 270 degrees counterclockwise. And this R should look just like this. It should look like a vertical cylinder. That's 90 degrees. That's 180. And here's 90. And I see that R is exactly in the place that R prime was before. So that's another way you can check it as well. All right, because it's a rigid motion, I know that we have congruent figures. And that would be choice A. All right, so for choice 3, we're multiplying one coordinate by -3. So we have no rule that allows us to only multiply the x coordinate by a scale factor of -3. If they were to dilate it by a scale factor of -3, centered at the origin, we have to multiply that y by -3 as well. So I already know that there's no rule associated with this. So I'm going to write neither just to begin, because no rule looks like this. So I'm going to skip that for now, because I know that this rule down here is a legitimate rule. That's a translation of -4 in the x direction and -3 in the y direction. That will produce congruent figures because translations are rigid motions and always preserve the dimensions. So if I'm looking here, I already had a problem with B earlier, so already I can see that these two figures are not congruent. Let's see if this one works. So if I take F here and I look at this lower right vertex, I'm going to go -4 in the x direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 3 in the y, 1, 2, 3. and that takes me to the lower left-hand corner of f prime as well. And these two figures are exactly the same, so I'm not going to waste my time and check all three of them. But that is the correct answer for question number 4. All right, number 3, it looks like they've just taken every coordinate and multiplied the x by -3. So as you can see, the y coordinates here stay the same. Those don't change at all, but the x coordinates do. So -1 times -3 is +3, which actually is not even correct here. It's kind of bizarre. Yeah, I have no idea. Actually, if we're multiplying all our coordinates by x coordinates by -3, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. That rule just doesn't work. It does not work at all. There's nothing in here that remotely relates to this this transformation. It's definitely not being cut in half. It's definitely not being rotated in the x and y switching. That's a rigid motion. And it's definitely not just being translated. So that one's just totally wrong. So B doesn't even relate to that. There's nothing that relates these two together. Unless I'm making some grave mistake, but I do not think I am. All right, that is that all? That's all for 3.2.